Get ready to dive deep into the heart of the political storm, right here on Pollitt-TIcs.
Welcome back, everybody, to Pollitt-TIcs. This is your host, Greg Pollitt. Today, we're going to jump right into the headlines that are very entertaining. Because if today's headlines don't prove the deep state is auditioning for a clown college reboot, I'm not sure what does. We got activist judges slapping blocks on Trump's National Guard plans for Oregon. But President Trump just deployed Texas troops anyway, making the robe furious. Senator Cotton is torching a Biden judge with impeachment calls over the slap on the wrist for the Kavanaugh's would-be killer. You had a left-leaning, lack of better term, douchebag that drove all the way across country who tried with a plot to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. But yet, the judge gave him a watered-down sentence. And at the same time, Stephen Miller is unloading on Democrats for blaming conservatives for a judge's exploding mailbox fiasco that burned their house down. And New York City's commie mayoral hopeful, Zohran Mamdani, that's a hard name to say. Why can't his name be Steve? We're going to call him Steve from now on. So the Steve Mamdani dodging his red boots like they're yesterday's headlines. We're going to jump into the headlines that scream America first or else. You're going to check out my unfiltered conservative hot takes with enough sarcasm to make AOC's bartender blush. And that's a difficult thing to do. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, like, share for all your friends and family. Let's hop on the train and go for a ride before the thought police show up. Once again, activist judges try to thwart the plans of President Trump, passing another injunction to prevent President Trump from sending troops into Portland. But Trump says, eat a dick, and sends them anyway. Trump just sent Texas National Guard troops to Portland's ICE facility because for the longest time, we have seen peaceful protest, as the left would like to say, with Molotov cocktails, attacking ICE officers, attacking federal facilities, courtrooms, you name it. Of course, the judge that posted this block to President Trump is fuming like a snowflake in a sauna, melting away. And a Trump-appointed judge issued a second emergency order blocking the takeover, but the boots are already hitting the ground anyway. The Trump administration wanted to restore order in this riot-riddled shithole section of Portland since 2020. But judges have said federal overreach. Overreach? As if Antifa bonfires are a protected civil right? Far from overreach. If anything, this is underreach. We got cities that are burning. The left's solution is to hug it out with Molotov cocktails. It's pretty sad to see what's happened in Portland. Trump says, hold my MAGA hat, and sends the troops anyway. Imagine if this judge's backyard barbecue got crushed by uninvited spray painters yelling, defund grills. I mean, would he call the cops or would he file for emotional distress? That's exactly the point. Because all these leftists screamed, defund the police, we don't need their kind here, all this kind of rhetoric until it's their ass in the crock pot. When push comes to shove, who are they going to call? The police. So what if we flip the script? We send the judge and all these leftists into Portland Chaz 2.0 with nothing but their gavel and their little megaphones, and see how quickly they would trade it for a gas mask faster than you could say qualified immunity. These judges are like vegan steaks, tough, flavorless, and now Trump's grilling them with a Texas brisket. You know, America First is not just a slogan. It's something the Democrats can't get behind. They've spent their entire careers selling this nation out to China, to India, to Pakistan, to you name it. And not just the Democrats. There's been rhinos involved in that as well. So they don't know what America First is. The only America First they understand is money in their pocket. That has to change. We have to do that for all Americans. And to do that is to keep jobs here in the United States, secure our own supply chain, secure our borders, protect our economy, grow our economy, and expand our ability to manufacture into other parts of the world. It's a wonderful thing that we can do. That is what is happening with Trump bringing all these trillions of dollars in investments into the United States since he's taken office. Car manufacturers bringing their factories home. Intel, Apple, other companies bringing manufacturing facilities back to the United States. That's America First. That's how we raise everyone up equally. And you do not leave out or create such a gap between the middle class and poverty. You bring them to equality to where everyone is in the middle class or above. But that just doesn't set right with Democrats, because as long as they have money in their pockets, they can only tax yours to get more. Speaking of justice gone wrong, the would-be assassin of the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh got sentenced to just 8 years. That's lighter than a gender study syllabus. And now Senator Tom Cotton is calling for the impeachment of that Biden-appointed judge. This nut job, now Sophie, and waving the trans flag for leniency, plotted the hit over Roe rage, but got community service vibes instead of the 30 years prosecutors demanded. Completely disgraceful. It's like ticketing a carjacker for bad parking. And Senator Tom Cotton's fresh fire on it is impeach her for this comically light sentence that screams judicial assassinations ahead. If this jerk off can get by with such a light sentence for an attempt, that is just begging for more attempts. That is just begging for more violence against judges. You know, picture this. What if we treated liberal plotters the same? Oh, wait. J6 tourists got the book thrown at them. So why doesn't that happen to the liberal left? Think about that for a minute. Why is there such a double standard? Why did he get off easy? Because in blue courts, attempted murder is just passionately disagreeing with originalism. Maybe next time, try pronouns instead of a pistol for that reduced time. The Trump era DOJ would have supermaxed this clown faster than fake news. But if we treated border crossers and assholes like this, fast, furious, fee-free assassins wouldn't plot. They'd pivot for plot twists for real justice. I mean, the sentence is so lenient, it's a participation trophy for most woke way to wave goodbye to the Second Amendment. So Senator Totten impeach call to impeach this judge, it's just music to conservative ears. It's time to clean house. We have to thank our senators and congressmen who actually stand up and start to fight back. Democrats built the rage machine for the last decade, and now they're oiling the escape hatch. Pass the popcorn. It's time we start bringing in impeachment season magnified. Then we had today, tragic event. There was an incident at a judge's home. And they're trying to blame Trump and MAGA as Trump's tweets for the do-it-yourself fireworks that caused this guy to go on this rampage. He's trying to blame people like Stephen Miller, who is probably visually one of the most patriotic people, and not just patriotic, but constitutionalist. This guy is very smart. And he completely destroys liberals and Democrats every time they come up with their talking points. He systematically takes them apart layer by layer, explains how they couldn't be any more wrong, and shows them the pathway to the truth while they still turn their back on it. It's pretty crazy, the world we live in today. If we could go back and talk to our founding fathers and tell them some of the shit that we are experiencing today, they would roll over in their graves right now. So why do Dems love the blame game? I mean, their record's so explosive, they'd rather fuse conservatives than own the boom boom that goes dynamite. Poof goes the credibility. I mean, what if we shut down proofed politics by axing green scans and Nancy Pelosi's pork? Or her $25,000 ice cream. Savings galore. No more Dems exploding excuses. And this jerk off Goldman today, his rhetoric is so weak, it couldn't blow a balloon animal. Stick to Wall Street, Danny. Leave the fireworks to the pros. Stephen Miller's righteous. Not just right, but tough love for gaslighting Congress. The Democrats call his bluff or call it a day. America's eardrums can't take the champagne of your hypocrisy anymore. So, my take to you, stop gaslighting. We need to institute a law, or actually amend the law, that says if you lie to Congress, you go to prison. What about what happens when Congress lies to you? Adam Schiff Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, AOC. They are overflowing with guilt from lying consistently all the time. The only truth you can find from them is in the toilet when they flush it. And then we have this, it's almost difficult to say. This communist douchebag, Zohran Mamdani, running for mayor of New York City, because that's just the ultimate slap in the face, isn't it? Not because he's a Muslim, but someone with communist views and the rhetoric that he speaks consistently, running to be mayor of the biggest city in the world for America. After 9/11, that is a slap in the face. Some of his tweets and everything are coming back to haunt him now. People are unleashing his comments. The experts are screaming he's completely communist. His anti-cop stance, anti-white push, and he denies it faster than a socialist skips the bill. New York's bodegas blacking out under his vibe. Imagine his slogan: Mamdani, not a communist, I'm a community enhancer, grabbing your pizza for the collective. But why run for mayor of New York City as a communist? If Biden fumbled this free bagels for all, surrender with locks, Trump, winter walk punchline, it's complete insanity. Mamdani is so far left, his platform's got a 5-year plan for your wallet's vanishing act. Refugees, calling it dangerous. It's completely spot on socialism's gateway drug to commie crash. New York needs to pound the pavement for sane votes to come back to reality. We could do much better than this guy. I hope you guys can see everything that's going on. Communism sneaking its way in, socialism sneaking its way in. It's a systematic attack on the United States from within. Because you can't destroy America from the outside. They've tried. Pearl Harbor, 9/11, Oklahoma City was an inside job. Waco. Like, there's been multiple interior motives, interior plots to take down the government, to take down America from within. But the biggest plot that we've seen finally revealed just a few weeks ago, like it's gone like charges in a Puff Daddy courtroom, when Tulsi Gabbard released documentation of a plan to create fake information to back up the Steele dossier and use that to undermine and overthrow a duly elected president. And then today we have an even bigger, I can't say bigger, but an even large piece of that puzzle released today. They're all the attacks, the legal battles against President Trump. Senator Grassley today, with the help of whistleblowers, released a document that outlined Jack Smith in his investigating the elector case, spied on 8 Republican Senate colleagues, along with Chuck Grassley, in an operation called Arctic Frost, for his investigation into the election conspiracy. Just more proof of how Obama and Biden all weaponized the government to go after their political appointees. And we knew this was going to happen, because the moment they broke the law, they knew they had the upper hand, because anybody that tried to come after them, they would play this card of revenge. They would play the card of weaponizing the government to come after political enemies, even though that's exactly what they do. They always project everything they do onto their enemies. Let's see if we can get this to play this time. We're going to listen to Chuck Grassley here and see what he has to say. Take it away, Chuck.
Of these telephone records, which I think emphasizes the political weaponization that was behind all this effort. And we're still getting more information, but we've released some records today, and I'll let Senator Johnson take over from here, and then each one of you colleagues can join in when you want to, whatever you want to say.
First of all, I want to thank Senator Grassley. It is because of his relentless advocacy for whistleblowers that a lot of this information is surfacing right now. We wouldn't know about the list of 100 Republican entities that were targeted by Jack Smith's Arctic Frost investigation. I don't think we know about this as well. So we need whistleblowers. I think Dan Bongino and other folks in the FBI, they don't know where all the records are hidden. They still don't. They're not necessarily getting 100% cooperation. But this is outrageous what has happened. I just want to give you a timeline. I think you've already got the FBI sheet that shows the number of members of Congress that were targeted. Representative Kelly, Senators Graham, Haggerty, Hawley, Sullivan, Tuberville, myself, Senator Lummis, and Blackburn. This memo was dated September of 2023. To put it all into context, the Mar-a-Lago raid occurred in August of 2022. Jack Smith announced the indictments against President Trump in August of 2023. So this is almost 2 months later. They're casting this net, this fishing expedition against members of the Senate and the House. Yeah, I've been investigating this with Senator Grassley. This doesn't surprise me, but it should shock every American of what the Biden administration has done. By the way, this is the first time I was targeted by the FBI. Under the Obama administration, the same thing happened to both Senator Grassley and I as part of the Foreign Influence Task Force. We were giving a briefing to try and convince us that the Hunter Biden laptop was no big deal, basically trying to throw us off the track. So this is major corruption that's being revealed inside the Obama and Biden Department of Justice, the FBI, and I'll turn it over to I guess Senator Haggerty, who's one of the individuals. None of us were subject to targets of this investigation. There's no predicate. There's no reason for this other than a fishing expedition, which again should outrage and shock every American. Senator Haggerty.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. And Chairman Grassley, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. This is an extraordinary revelation.
Felicitation.
So there you have it. That's just one example of how the Department of Justice was weaponized against President Trump and other Republicans. Let's take a look at the document that they were referring to in that press conference. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Electronic Communication. This is dated September 27th, 2023. Case ID, Arctic Frost, Election Law Matters, Sensitive Investigation Matter. FBI Special Assistant conducted preliminary toll analysis on limited toll records associated with the following U.S. Senators: Mike Kelly, Lindsey Graham, Bill Haggerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Loomis, and Marsha Blackburn. And they want to still say that Watergate was the worst weaponization of the United States government. Talk about pot calling the kettle black. We can't let this story fade away like so many others have. Because while all this information is coming out, the left-wing media refuses to cover it. And while this is all ongoing, President Trump is trying to save our nation from driving off the cliff into a civil war. The left, once again, tries to blame the right for all of it. But their actions, their protests that they want to call peaceful, are destroying cities, destroying communities. And then we have wonderful people that are mayors of these towns who think that they are
Today we are
above the law. They think they are better by pushing this agenda that today, Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, tried to create ice-free zones to prevent federal officers from using city property or business properties throughout Chicago as staging grounds to launch their engagement into chasing down illegal immigrants or just getting your run-of-the-mill drug dealer off the street. Let's take a listen to what this jerk-off had to say.
And today we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids. And today we are signing an
We don't want ICE here. You know, it's people like this that give retarded people a bad name. With the issue here is the conflict of states' rights versus federal law. So when a situation like this, such as mayors, governors calling for sanctuary cities, how are these resolved? The principle is rooted in the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution. Article 6, Clause 2. And that declares that the Constitution, federal laws, and treaties are the supreme law of the land, binding all states and judges. Which means all these judges that are playing policy advocate on the bench, all their rulings are null and void. These conflicts are resolved through the doctrine of preemption. The federal preemption occurs in three main ways. Express preemption, where Congress explicitly states in a federal statute that it overrides state law. Certain environmental or labor regulations are excluded. A field preemption is when federal law is so comprehensive that it implies Congress intended to occupy the entire field, which means there's no gray area. So, like when you tell your son or daughter to go do the dishes and to do them now, there's no 5-minute pause. There's no 2 weeks later. It's now. You have to obey now and at that moment. Then there's a conflict preemption. Even without explicit intent, state law is preempted if it directly contradicts federal law or makes compliance to where both are impossible. A state banning a federally approved product, such as immigration, customs, and enforcement. This conflict preemption completely describes how sanctuary cities are illegal because federal law is to control immigration. That is what the federal government is charged with doing. And when a state says that you, Mr. or Mrs. Illegal Alien, can come here and stay, that is a conflict of law. And this conflict preemption follows federal statutes. Now, courts do decide these on a case-by-case basis, but this is clearly how it's outlined in the Constitution. And just by what we see, common sense would dictate that a sanctuary city is a clear violation, that they can hold no ground, that this ICE-free executive order in Chicago is unconstitutional. Federal law supersedes, and they must be allowed to do their job. And anyone who is in the way of that is an obstructionist. Not only that, they've violated their oath to the Constitution. It's dereliction of duty for them to not put forth the 100% best effort to protect the citizens of their city, of their township, of their county, of their state. They're all in violation of that. So I expect this to come down very quickly. And if it even makes it to the Supreme Court, this needs to be the biggest slapdown by the Supreme Court to all of these morons who are violating the Constitution, who are ripping it apart with every illegal they allow in your neighborhood. That is just one way of how they're sneaking socialism as a gateway drug into your communities. Well, if we don't have to follow this law by the federal government, then the emperor has no clothes. Federal government has no power. So then why do we need the federal government? But the federal government has the right to protect itself as well. And it shall. And it will. States do have broad authority in areas that are not regulated by federal government under the 10th Amendment. But these policies they are enacting are in clear and direct violation of federal law enforcing immigration. So what do you think? Is this just another circus clown show? Our latest episode of Desperate Housewives? Or do you think this is going to play out much worse? My opinion, we're in a soft civil war right now. This is how it begins. And if we don't stop it, and I mean the federal government, by using law and order, we're going to see much more chaos in our streets. So it's up to you to speak out. When you see violations like this, we all need to unite together and speak up for what is right. At a previous employer of mine, during the wonderful years of COVID, our employer, which we all worked from home, was going to enforce the Biden era mandate of vaccinations for COVID-19. Many of my coworkers did not want to do that, along with myself. But everyone was afraid to speak up. So we had a town hall, which happened quite often as part of the just the company platform, kind of keep everybody up to date on progress of how the business was going, etc. During this town hall, they proceeded to tell us we were to take the shot with no exceptions. So I raised my voice. After waiting for others to speak up, everyone was afraid to speak up. So I asked them questions. In this particular matter, I asked them if I had AIDS or was schizophrenic, if I had to disclose that information to the company. They immediately tried to shoot that down. Well, this is nothing like that. And one of the HR reps even said, AIDS is not transmissible. Yeah, wonder where he got his education at, dipshit. But it wasn't the point. It wasn't the point of the disease. It was the point of law. You, as an employee, have the right to not tell your employer anything about you or your health or anyone else. But when it comes to employers, the only time you are legally required to disclose anything is if it prevents you or prohibits you in any manner from doing that particular job. So, for example, if you are a quadriplegic, you can't quite be the, running instructor. Obviously, that would prohibit you from being able to complete that job and train people in that manner. So you would have to disclose that. I also asked them that since this was an experimental vaccine, it had not been approved by the FDA. It had only been giving emergency authorization use. I asked them what would happen if I took the shot and had adverse reactions and I was to succumb to those injuries. Would they take care of my family? Their immediate answer was no. They're not responsible. So then I brought to their attention how that's a clear conflict of interest. And I reminded the HR representatives that their job as an HR personnel is to prevent the company from overreaching on employees' rights. And they were failing at that. They were taking an agenda pushed for a political purpose that had no backing in doing so. There was no proof showing the vaccines were good, that they were not causing any injuries, that there were no side effects. There was no data to back that up, but yet they were trying to push that on to their employees, who once again worked from home. And because I stood up, I asked those questions and I pushed back. Not being a dickhead, not being unruly, not even being political. Because this discussion happened not long after my father-in-law had passed away from complications from COVID. The left love to preach my body, my choice, except for when it comes to something they don't agree with, which is what the left does with every situation. They call the police when they're in trouble, but they want you to have guns to defend yourself when, in some areas, police response time are not mere seconds, but minutes and tens of minutes. And in some places in the country, even hours. But no, you don't need the right to defend yourself, but a Democrat needs the ability to protect themselves. The hypocrisy is insanity. And we've got to stick together and stand up when these things happen. And because I stood up in that town hall, the company reversed course. They allowed exemptions, medical, religious, where they weren't going to before. When you give them facts back, they back down. Because it clearly shows they're running on emotional, most of the time, lack of intelligence versus clear cut education, determination, respect, and lawful engagement. And if you need to see any contrast to that, look at what's going on in Chicago. Look what's going on in Portland. You have people on the right who are showing up as a counter protest. You have independent journalists, conservative leaning, yes, but have been attacked and were arrested because they were attacked. But yet, the Antifa members on the other side who have done the attacks got away scot-free. We cannot allow this to continue because it will destroy our nation. So, yes, you over there with your hat, you taking a drink of a beer right now, it's up to you and all of us to demand accountability from our elected officials, our government officials, and to ensure the law is followed. With that, guys, hop on over to YouTube, subscribe to the Pollitt-TIcs channel, where you'll see this video and others. If you are listening on Spotify, be sure to like and subscribe there and share. Also on Rumble, and be sure to follow us over on X. We're going to grow this movement. The movement is much bigger than me. I'm just a small part of it. Be sure to check out the tweets over at X. This is your host, Greg, signing off today. God bless America. Good night.